Hi folks, I hope you're all doing well and welcome back to another episode of my iRacing Breakdown. We're into week 4 now, and compared to last week it is not nearly as good, but we've seen worse in the past. Now I'm sorry if some of the images don't match what I'm talking about. I don't have all the tracks that we're going to cover today, so I just had to fill up with some of the other tracks. So without any further ado, let's get into it. Let's start with my first to avoid pick. So this week, both flavors of the IMSA iRacing series, the Open and Fixed, are heading to Mosport. In-game, the green flag drops at 7:45 a.m. local, so you're racing in cool morning air at 73 Fahrenheit or 23 Celsius on Open, and 68 Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius on Fixed, with a 25% rain chance. Normally, I'd just tell you to track and move on, but there's actually a really good reason to talk about this one properly because it lines up with something happening in real life this exact same weekend. The real IMSA championship is at CTMP from July 10th through 12th, and here's the thing. GTPs aren't racing, they're taking the weekend off, and they have been since 2023, mostly because of budgeting concerns. But also, there are safety concerns, because it's simply too short of a track at 2.4 miles long or 3.9 kilometers. The speed difference between the different classes is too great and the track too narrow for multi-class. Mix that with no real heavy braking zones or long straight and you have a recipe for disaster. And that's the reason why I would tell you to skip it this week, because unlike in IMSA, iRacing's IMSA iRacing series is going to be running the 3 main classes, which is going to make the driving experience worst. Here's where it gets fun, though, because the story doesn't end there. Also at CTMP this week in the Falken Tire Cars Challenge, the LMP3 and GT4s are running together, and this one I'd actually tell you to race in comparison to the IMSA one. The reason it works here and not IMSA is pretty simple. The LMP3 and GT4s are a much closer match in outright pace than the GTPs and the GT3s, so the closing speeds through traffic aren't nearly as violent. And there's a real-world parallel here too, because IMSA's own support series, running the LMP3 alongside the GT4s, are also running this weekend as part of the WeatherTech Championship support card. And it's a 30-minute sprint race, grid by class, rolling start, in-game start time of 3:10 p.m. local, so full daylight at 27 degrees and dry. Nothing complicated weather-wise, so this one's just really about the racing and managing of traffic. And I do think it will deliver. Next one to race, and I want to flag this because I actually flipped on this one after thinking about it more, but the Super Formula, both Open and Fixed, is at Barcelona's historic layout this week. Now normally, I'd be a little wary of historic configurations for open wheel series, because of those older layouts can sometimes feel like a mismatch for modern cars. But F1 was at Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, and that's exactly the kind of real-world overlap that tends to bring a bit of extra attention to a combo like this. Super Formulas are quick, they've got real downforce to lean on, and Barcelona's a track that rewards precision through the long middle sector. Both versions go green at 8:25 a.m. local, so an early, cool session either way. Also, dry, with no rain on the forecast. Fixed runs at 76 or 24 Celsius, over 15 laps. Open's basically the same conditions, but over 26. So clean, dry, no surprises. A good week to get some quality open wheel laps in. Right, to keep it in the family, this is my last to race pick, and this is just a nice, clean pick. It's the Dallara F3 at Mugello. Mugello is just one of those tracks that suits a car like the F3 because it's flowing, it's fast, it's momentum-based, the kind of layout where a small mistake costs you through 3 or 4 corners rather than just one. Standing start, in-game start time of 3:10 p.m. local, so plenty of light and heat baked into the track by then. 85 Fahrenheit or 29 Celsius, also no rain in the forecast, and a 25-minute sprint race. There's also not a lot to overanalyze here. It's just a good combination, and I think it'll race well. Although I do know the F3 is probably not the most popular open wheel series at the moment. Now, I don't have any more to avoid picks, but I do have a dishonorable mention before we move on to the honorable mentions. And it pains me a bit to say because on paper, this dishonorable mention looks great. It's the Global Endurance Tour's 24-hour round at Spa this week, going green at 2:55 p.m. local and 68 Fahrenheit or 20 Celsius. No rain, so it starts in the afternoon and rolls straight through the night and into the next day. Spa, 24 hours, GTPs and GT3s running together. That's exactly the kind of combination I'll be pushing you for. In fact, I put this exact combo, IMSA at Spa, last week in my to race picks because it's a historically strong car and track pairing for this series. The problem this week isn't the track or the format, it's really about the timing. iRacing's own Spa 24-hour special event is happening this exact same weekend, and the event is one of the most popular special events on the calendar year after year. It's the standout pick for the entire summer, really, and that's going to basically hoover up everyone who was going to spend their Saturday doing a long Spa stint. You're competing directly against your own community's biggest scheduled draw of the week at the same track in a similar car list. It's a bit baffling, honestly, that this wasn't staggered better on the calendar because on another weekend this round could easily have pulled a much healthier field. Last week, or I think 2 weeks back, they ran the 24-hour race at MotoGP, and I don't even think they went official with that, or maybe if they did, they only had one split. So I don't understand why they didn't do Spa before or after and MotoGP, because it's very unpopular, the same weekend as the Spa race. But anyway, unless you specifically want that odd, sparsely populated time slot that's left over after the special events crowd has already picked their race, I'd give this one a pass this week and point you towards the special event instead if a 24-hour Spa stint is what you're after. My first honorable mention before we wrap up is the Proto GT Challenge at the Tono Road course this week, and I really like the car list here, and I really like the feel that it's going to give. You've got the Audi GTO and the Nissan GTP mixed in with the GT1s, the M1, ARX, and the FGT classes, so it's got the proper vintage multi-class flavor that not a lot of series bother with anymore. I don't think a lot of people are going to race this as these older cars are very niche, but there are definitely some older car lovers out there that are going to run this series. It didn't quite have the real world hook the other three series I picked for my to race had, so it's not a full to race, but if you like something a bit different from the usual GT3 or GT4 diet, this is worth a look. In-game start is at 3:45 local, 82 Fahrenheit or 28 Celsius, drying 30-minute race. So my second and last honorable mention, and honestly this one is as nice as it can get for a bounce back week. It's the Ringmasters at Nürburgring with the GT4s. And this one feels nice because 2 weeks and this one feels nice because the Ringmasters had a tough stretch with 2 weeks of low participation with the Ford Mustang and the Porsche Mission R. And now we have the GT4s. And now, yes, the GT4s are never going to pull the numbers GT3s do to begin with. But this week's choice is actually a good chance for the series to claw a little bit of that participation back. It's a short, low-commitment sprint. In-game start at 12 p.m. local, 68 Fahrenheit, or 20 degrees Celsius with no rain. If you've been meaning to grind some safety rating, a quick 3-lap format like this is about as low risk as you can get. And for this week, I believe it is really worth jumping into. Now, I don't know what type of brain fart I was on when I wrote this, because I'm actually at the end of editing this video, and I just realized I didn't even include the GT Sprint Series and the GT3 Challenge Fixed that are both running at Spa in preparation for the Spa 24 hours. The green flag is at 2:55 p.m. local. The GT Sprints running is at 76 Fahrenheit or 25 degrees Celsius, and the GT3 Fixed is at 66 Fahrenheit or 19 degrees Celsius, which is a little bit closer to what we're going to get during the 24-hour special event. What is not similar is the fact that they are going to run dry with no rain on the forecast. A little thing worth knowing before going in, historically the McLaren, the Porsche, and the Ferrari have been the top 3 most picked cars in this GT3 field, with the Mustang or the BMW tied for 4th. So if you're weighing in the options for the 24 hours and want to practice in something the field's actually going to be full of, that's your pecking order. It is going to be one of the most popular and one of the most useful pairing on the schedule this week, so I would highly recommend that you run it once or twice. So that's week 4 for you. 2 strong avoid this week, but for very different reasons. One's a track that's fighting its home classless, and the other's just a bad timing against your own community's biggest weekend event. On the race side, CMTP redeems itself with the LMP3s and GT4 pairing. Barcelona's worth a look on the back of F1's visit 2 weeks ago, and Mugello with the F3s is as clean as a recommendation as I can give you this week. Let me know in the comments what you'll be racing, and I'll catch you for the next one. See you guys.